My name is Kamala, and for 30 years, I ran my household with an iron hand. Everyone obeyed me, my husband, my children, even the neighbors who came for advice. So when my son Rohan brought home a girl named Anjali and announced they were getting married, I smiled at the wedding and quietly decided I would never let her run my house the way she wanted. I want to tell you exactly what happened over the next 2 years because it taught me the most painful lesson of my life. From the day Anjali stepped into our home, I tested her. I criticized her cooking. Even when it was good, I compared her to the daughter-in-law of my neighbor, Sushila, who apparently made perfect round rotis and never answered back. I woke her early, kept her busy with chores, and made sure she understood. This was my house, and she was merely living in it. Anjali never argued. She would lower her eyes, say, "Yes, Maji," and go back to work. I mistook her silence for weakness. I told my friends proudly, I have trained her well. I didn't realize that every quiet apology was costing her something I couldn't see. Rohan worked long hours at his office job, and every evening when he returned, I made sure to tell him small stories. How Anjali had burned the dal, how she had gone out without informing me, how she spoke too much on the phone with her own mother. I never lied outright, but I shaded every story to make her look careless, and myself look patient. Slowly, I watched something change in Rohan's eyes when he looked at his wife. Suspicion? Irritation? Distance? I told myself I was protecting my son. I did not tell myself the truth, that I could not stand sharing him with anyone. One evening, Anjali did not come down for dinner. I sent Rohan up to call her, expecting another excuse I could report later. He came back down pale, his hands trembling. "Ma," he said, "she's not well. She's been throwing up for 2 days and she didn't tell either of us." We rushed her to the hospital. The doctor called us into his office an hour later, and what he said made the floor tilt beneath me. "She's severely anemic and exhausted. Her body has been under constant stress for months. If you hadn't brought her in today, this could have become very serious." I sat in that hospital corridor and finally allowed myself to ask the question I had been avoiding. Why hadn't she told anyone she was this unwell? The nurse, a kind older woman, answered before I could ask Anjali directly. She told me she didn't want to be a burden. She said her mother-in-law already thinks she isn't good enough. She didn't want to prove her right. I felt something inside me crack open. That night, while Anjali slept in the hospital bed, I stepped outside for air and heard Rohan on the phone with his father-in-law, Anjali's father, his voice thick with guilt. I should have noticed, Papa. I was so focused on keeping peace at home, on not upsetting Ma, that I stopped really looking at my own wife. "I'm sorry. I promise this will change." I stood in the hallway, unseen, and for the first time in 2 years, I did not see a daughter-in-law who needed to be corrected. I saw a young woman, far from her own family, quietly breaking under the weight of trying to please a mother-in-law who had never once tried to make her feel at home. When Anjali was discharged 3 days later, I sat beside her bed. Before we left the hospital, my hands shook as I held hers. "I have been unfair to you," I said. "I made you feel small in a house that should have been your home too. I was afraid of losing my son, so instead, I nearly lost you. I'm sorry, beta." She looked at me, surprised, tears filling her eyes. "I only ever wanted you to see me as your daughter, Maji, not as someone to compete with." That was the moment I finally understood. A mother-in-law who tries to hold on to her son by pushing away his wife loses far more than she protects. Today, 2 years later, Anjali runs the kitchen with me. Not for me. We argue sometimes, like any mother and daughter do. But she no longer lowers her eyes when she speaks to me. Rohan says our house feels lighter now, warmer. I still think about that hospital corridor sometimes. How close I came to losing everything by trying to control too much. If you have ever been on either side of this story, the mother-in-law or the daughter-in-law learning to find her place, I hope this reaches you at the right time. Like, share, and subscribe for more real, heartfelt family stories every week. 16.